What's the crack? Today I'm going to be talking about my guitar collection. So I'm going to be going through my entire collection. I'll be looking at my basses, my acoustics and my electric guitars. I don't have a huge amount of really expensive, PRS or Gibson or Chapman or anything like that, but what I do have I make do with, and I think it sounds pretty good. So let's get on with it. So my first ever guitar was made by a brand called Valencia. I remember exactly what happened was that another guitar that I have, the nut broke on it, and being 12 years old I tried to fix it by taking the nut off of my nylon string guitar, which I no longer used, and putting it on the new guitar, which had broken. And it turns out that doesn't work with classical guitars onto electric guitars, considering the shape is entirely different, and now I had two broken guitars. Could have easily fixed it, but I never played the guitar anyway, so it got thrown away. My next guitar is actually my dad's guitar, but he has not stolen it back from me, so... Is that still in tune? Wow! I haven't played it in like 4 or 5 months and it's still in tune. That's great. It's a Yamaha F310. He got it... He got it around the time I was getting a new guitar, because I didn't want to play the nylon string guitar. I thought that it was just kind of boring, so they were going to upgrade me to having a new guitar that was acoustic and a little bit bigger. And my dad got this, and it's really nice, and I prefer using this to the next guitar I'm going to show you, even though he claims the next guitar is a lot more expensive. So as you can see right here, it has no strings on it. I don't know how that'll actually affect the truss rod if it doesn't have any of that tension on it for so long. It has not had strings for a long time, and that was specifically because I was recording a song with an acoustic guitar and I wanted to use the Yamaha instead. So I couldn't afford new strings. I took the strings off this, put it on the Yamaha, and I just sort of haven't used this in about 2 or 3 years. It's an SX. It says custom guitars, so I guess it's a custom built guitar, which sounds really fancy, but it's well used. You can see on the fretboard there's a lot of wear, a lot of not cutting my fingernails when I should have been, but you know what, looking at it now, I'm wanting to play it because the fretboard still feels nice, and the frets feel nice. This is nice. No, yeah, I think I'll play it again at some point, because it's kind of a shame to have such a lovely looking instrument, and it is gorgeous, and not use it. So I think I might use this at some point very soon, because I'm starting to get nostalgic from it. The next instrument is my very first bass guitar. I think you can sense a pattern coming on here. I swear not all of my instruments have no strings and are broken, but this one just happens to be broken. Why? Because a little piece of the nut chipped off right there, so the string wouldn't stay in place. But I literally got this in 2014 maybe, something like that, and it was with my Christmas money. I decided I wanted to go into town, and I went into a guitar shop, Music Minds, and they had this second hand for €100, and I said, hell yeah. Action was low, the frets weren't too close together, the neck is nice and thin. It was just really easy to get used to over a short period of time, when I was kind of learning the differences between playing bass and playing guitar, and how they're not the same thing and different ways you can do it. Honestly, it was a cheap bass. I got what I paid for. I only found out later on that, as it turns out, Samick went bankrupt in 2001, meaning that this bass is essentially 4 years younger than me. 4? 4. Now, next up is my first ever electric guitar, and as most people will probably already know, it's one of those Squiers that just I could have tuned this like 20 minutes ago and it wouldn't be in tune now. What is that? It actually feels pretty good, you know, to play around with. It might be the thinner gauge strings are just really comfortable, but you know, it's like €100 pack that you get with the amp and the strap and some picks included and stuff. And is it great? No, but you know what? It's something, and I still have it. I'm very proudly still own all of my equipment, no matter how broken it is, and I make some sort of use out of it. I even use this in my 10 tips for an aspiring musician video that you can check out. You know, I use it in some skits for like a beginner, you know. Next up, this is my dream bass. The reason I actually wanted this bass is because I loved it so much from, I found out about it through a video of someone doing a cover of Toxicity by System of a Down on this bass, and I ended up loving it. I just loved the look, I loved the sound, I loved the way the guy looked when he was playing it. So I got this bass off a guy on adverts. You know, he was just selling it online. He was moving to America to get married, so he was selling some of his music equipment. I obviously couldn't get it from the States because it was just too expensive to ship, and if you wanted to buy it from Europe, then it would have been way more expensive, but for cheaper postage. So either way, I wasn't really able to afford it. But the guy on adverts was selling it for $250. I offered $220. He took the offer, and he said that it was barely used, barely played at all. And I went to the house to pick it up, exchange, you know, try it out first, obviously. And his parents were there instead of him. I picked up the bass, and literally, it was brand new. And I played it, loved the feel, and I gave the money to the parents, and I took it home with me for €220, my dream bass. So we move on now to my newest bass, which I actually bought because my other bass is really used for picking and metal and that kind of aggressive style of music. I wanted something that was a little bit more spanky, a little bit more just sort of, you know, I could get like a little bit more of a high-end tone out of it. Essentially, I wanted to replace my Samick bass with something a little bit better quality, and it's the Squier Jaguar, I believe it's the vintage modified model, and I think these only actually came out in 2018, and they were actually put on the top 5 best value basses on the Thomann website, I think. So I picked it up for 180, or maybe it was like 200, something like that. It was a cheap enough bass. It was like, it's not quite entry level, it's a little bit above that. I don't remember how they work. I think it's classic vibe, then vintage modified, then it's something else above that. But you know, Squier for me, like a lot of people might give them stick for being like, you know, just for beginners, but they feel great. Next up we have my Music Minds. What more can I say about it? I have a video on it already, just talking about my Music Minds T-style guitar. It still works great, it still sounds just as good as it did. I haven't had to get any work done on it, I haven't had to do anything to it. The only thing is I accidentally pulled out the strap button, so I just put a little screw in there because I did not have a replacement that would fill the hole. But anyway, it's a great guitar, and you should check out that other video if you haven't already, because it's really good. Which brings us lastly to my baby. This is the first guitar that I really put myself into, if that makes any sense. You know, everything about it, you know, that the other guitars just have strings on them. This guitar has the Elixir 11 strings because I love those strings. The pickups have been changed to Seymour Duncan Black Winters because I love the Black Winters. You know, the tuners have been changed to Grovers, and everything about the guitar, especially since this is the one that I got after my Squier Strat, was I could have chosen any guitar, but I got this one for like €400, and it was like, you know, pretty expensive, but this thing was made in like 1998, according to the serial number. And that means, you know, I definitely got ripped off, I definitely overpaid, but you know, I was a kid and I wanted a guitar that would make me feel like James Hetfield, and this guitar kind of does that. And you know, for a while I was thinking about getting it repainted, getting like, you know, industrial flooring style scratch plate, but no, I love this guitar the way it is. I love the wood colour with the gloss, which makes no sense because I love matte black guitars and I love like matte and not shiny, but this guitar is just, you know, it's so perfect. It's the guitar that I did the most growing on, and yeah, I mean, I can't really say anything about the build quality of the guitar because I changed out most of the stuff, and also it was made like 20 years ago, so I'm not going to comment on it. I'm just going to say that this is my favourite guitar, and if I was like, this is my desert island guitar, essentially. If I had to, if I could only bring one, this would be it. You know, this guitar was pretty expensive to begin with. It might be a bit old. It might have got so much work put into it that I can now never recover that cost if I ever sell it. But like I said, I proudly own all of my gear, and I've never sold any of my gear because when I buy something, I invest my time into it and I make sure that I find something I can do with it. And honestly, this guitar has wound up on more of my recordings, projects, bands, singles, anything than any other guitar that I've ever done. This guitar is on things more often than any of my pedals, any of my other guitars, any other microphone. This thing right here is pretty much what defines my sound as a guitarist, and that's what it does. It defines my sound. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you got a little bit of insight into, you know, the kinds of guitars that I use, where I get my sound from, and yeah, I just hope you found it interesting. If you have anything that you'd like to mention about the guitars or ask any questions about specs, then I'd be happy to answer them either down in the comments or you can DM me on my Instagram. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.